Peace Squad, welcome back to our data science bootcamp. You are now in course one, where we're working on the funding management app. All right, this is especially great for anyone who is pursuing a data analyst, a business intelligence analyst, uh, any most of the data roles in general. If I could name a single language you need to work on, it is SQL. You're going to get a technical interview. They're gonna want to see your SQL skills. So this section of the course is going to be very, very heavy on developing your SQL skills because you're gonna need those. All right, so let's take a step back and evaluate what we're trying to accomplish here. So what we're going to do essentially, guys, is we're going to create the SQL queries required for each of our KPIs. All right. And what I've created for you all is an ER diagram. Okay. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube and you guys would like to get these assets, all you have to do is enroll in our course. All right. And you guys will be able to get these free assets. Cool. All right. So let's start with our first asset. So this is our total funding goal. All right. So this is the amount that our participant has indicated that they would like to get in funding. All right. So firstly, where would we get this data from? All right. Let's look at our uh, app and our onboarding. And where we would get this is they would have filled out something called funding goals. So let's just flip over to our Google Forms for a second. And as of right now, how Limit Squeeze Marketing is collecting this information is through funding goals. All right. So there's a section as of right now that is the welcome. All right. So that is, if we go to our wireframe, we zoom out a little bit. We have a welcome. We have a how it works. All right, how it works. And they have a section that's the background information. And then we have a section here called funding goals. All right, so it says, what is your minimum amount and what is your maximum amount? Those are the two data points that we're interested in. Now, how did we basically structure our database to ingest this information? Let's take a look at our database design for a second. So I'm going to go back over to our wireframe and I'm going to go over to our database design. All right, so if we look at our ER diagram for a second, scroll back in more. Basically, we have this participant table and we have a participant funding goals table. All right. And we have the funding goal amount minimum and the funding goal maximum. And essentially, our team has decided that we're going to take the average of these two. All right. So, how would we do that? Let's go over to our SQL table. All right. If you guys want to get the query so that you can build this table and insert some starter data, all you have to do is enroll in our course and you'll get emailed this information. All right. So let's first just look at how we would calculate the average um, to get the total funding goal. All right, so we have this table called the participant funding goals. And if we were to scroll up a bit, all right, So this is our table for for our participant funding goal. It has this funding goal ID that's just meant to represent a unique record. It has a participant ID. It has the short-term goal, their long-term goal, their fund goal minimum, and their fund goal maximum. All right. And let me run this again because I was playing around with the numbers here. There we go. We got 9,000 and 15,000. All right. So in our case, our participant Zandra filled out this information. And when she filled out this information, she indicated that her goal, her minimum amount is 9,000 and her maximum amount is 15,000. And so if we were to take the average of these two, we would get 24,000. Sorry, 12,000. If we were to add them up, we would get 24,000. And the average is 12,000. Let me make sure this is correct. Well, we'll see it when we do the calculations. All right. So, the query that we want to create, right? So basically what we want to do is to select, let's go back up. We want to select the maximum amount and we want to add that to the minimum amount. And then you guys can either divide by 2 or I like to just multiply. So then you multiply by 0.5 and that number ends up being our total funding goal. And the other thing that we want to do, so this right now happens to just have our one participant, but this could have been like all our participants. This could have been several participants. And even still, our one participant could have come to us to help her with several projects. And right now, we're specifically talking about one project. So I say all that to say we limited the query to the funding goal ID being 1. We're talking about this specific project. So the average funding goal for this particular project, let's scroll down, we'll actually see this, is 12,000. All right. So that is how we would get card number, like the first card. So if we go back over to our dashboard, if we were in charge of at least creating a report that told our stakeholders what the total funding goal amount is, that's the query that we would create that would return that amount. And in the future, we'll see essentially how we would plug our data up to a business intelligence solution and be able to create a dashboard that would actually create those values. All right. Next, let's move on to our percent of the goal that is reached. All right, let's discuss this one a bit. All right, so this one is essentially getting at like, okay, how much of the funding goal has Lemon Squeeze Marketing brought in for the client so far? So we know that the goal is to bring in 12,000, but how much have we actually brought in? So how or where would we store that information? Let's go back to our ER diagram. All right, so on our ER diagram, we have a table called the participant fund application. All right. Now, I don't think that all the boxes came through on this ER diagram, so I'm going to show you guys on the actual database. So let's take a look at the participant funding application table. Go back up for a second. All right, so on the participant fund application table, we have some fields that would essentially tell us how much money we've gotten, how much money has been awarded to our client. All right, so we have a few columns that will indicate that for us. So we have something called. Let me just start with the most obvious, or like the one that would tell us the the most, I guess is the best way to say it. All right, so we have a field called award amount. All right, so this would have been where we recorded the amount of money that we received from that from applying for that particular opportunity. All right, so this is representing like an application. So if you notice, there is a fund, and we have, if we go to our fund application. So for example, this is saying that this is for participant one and for fund number one. If we scroll up a bit, fund number one is is the AAM Vets National Scholarship. So basically, this is saying that we applied for, so this is for Zandra, participant number one, and this is for the AM Vets Scholarship, right? And we have a start date. So that's saying that we started the application on May the 1st, and we have a complete date. All right. So that's also telltale that, this might be an application to count. So we have a complete date. We also have a decision date. All right. So this would have been the date that we heard back from the fund to let us know whether we won the scholarship or not. All right. We also have an apply amount. So this is the amount of money that we applied for in funding. Okay. And then we also have an award amount. So that's especially the field that's the field that we're going to want to sum. All right. So we want to sum the award amount. So that's the amount that we actually got back from our funding. All right. And notice that there's an applied status and there's an award status. All right. So we want to make sure that we are picking first of all, in a perfect world, in a perfect world where the data is clean, there would only be an award amount populated if we actually won the award. But even still, we need to filter out the data to make sure that we're only getting applications that apply to this particular participant and for the ones that we've actually won for them. All right. So we can do this by also limiting our results to where the apply status is equal to applied and that the award status is equal to one. All right. So those are ways that we can filter out our data so that we're only dealing with the ones where we have one actual money. All right. So essentially, this would be adding this up, which is 14,000. All right. So this is the total amount that we've won for them so far. So we wanted to know what the percentage that we've won of the total goal amount. So in this case, we actually have overperformed, right? Our percentage is actually 116%, right? We've won 14,000, and their goal amount was 12,000. And here's the query that we use to get there, all right? So it's essentially like a combination of the query from before and then us summing up the other query and filtering. So let me just walk through it with you guys. So firstly, just start. This is what I do. I usually start with two separate queries. So that's what I did. I started with two separate queries. So I started with just creating the query that would be required for us to find out how much money we've won this participant in funding period. So I knew that we wanted to sum, right, this award amount. And I knew we wanted to get this from our participant funding application table. I knew we wanted to make sure that we wanted to limit this to just our the participant at in question, which is participant one. I also knew that we needed to make sure that we limit the results to have the award status to just be one, and that the applied status should be applied. So the first thing I did was just create this mini query, right? I knew that it would be a subquery for the final query. So I knew that we were going to have this query. And then the second query, we created this one in the first part, right? So this is just finding out what the total funding goal is. And in this case, we just took the average of the maximum and the minimum amount. All right. So then we have this in a subquery as well. All right. So once we have these in a subquery, so we have our subquery here. So we wrapped all of this and then we made this awarded, and then we wrapped all of this and we called this goal amount, right? And now we just come up to our to the top part, and we have our select statement. So we have our select, and then remember with this, we call this awarded, and then we call this field the awarded, the amount awarded. So we're saying to select the amount awarded, right? And then we're dividing by, so we call this goal amount, all right? And then the field or the column we call this was the total funding goal. So now we are dividing the amount that was awarded by the funding goal. We're multiplying that by 100. Now, the last thing that you guys see is the fact that we're just rounding this by 2 decimal places. And then we're calling this as goal reached. All right. So as goal reached is 116%. All right. So if we were to plug this data up to our dashboard, let's go back to our dashboard. So if we were to plug our data up here, this would actually be like 100. This will be in the blue because we've exceeded our goal. And in fact, let me just go ahead and put this in here. So, I don't feel like ungrouping. But anyways, this would be 110 and this would be pointing towards the blue. All right. So in the next video, what we're going to cover is how do we create a SQL query that is going to tell us the potential funding identified. Now that one's going to be interesting because essentially what we need to do is this is where we're going to start to need to like build our rules, because the whole like I guess like power of the app is being able to match the funding opportunities with our participants by this classification. And so what we need to do is begin to build queries that will take each of our funding opportunities and identify participants that would be eligible for that particular fund. So you guys see here how there's a fund eligibility rule and there's a code that goes along with it. The next thing that we're going to do is work on creating queries that would pull all the participants that's eligible for each one of our funds. All right. That's going to be an important view that we're able to return to our participants to just show them all the different opportunities that they're eligible for. So yeah, if I've gotten your attention so far, that means you guys would really enjoy our data science bootcamp. And if you guys want to join our data science bootcamp, right now it is only $2.99 per month to join our data science bootcamp, for the first 45 students to sign up. All right. Right now, we are in course number 1, where we are building our funding management app. It is very both data science and full stack heavy. Every project that we build in this data science bootcamp is going to be based on real world projects. And our data science bootcamp officially kicks off on June the 1st. All right. So you got a little bit of time to sign up. All right. I'll see you guys in the next video, where we figure out how to identify participants that are eligible for each one of our funds. All right. So I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Peace.